Mexico, 1970. People often speak of that as an explosion of color, a moment when football stepped out of the grainy shadows of black and white film and into the vivid brilliance of a new era. They speak of an unmatched Brazil, of samba dancers who turned the pitch into a cathedral of art. But behind the radiant smiles and the eternal Jules Rimet trophy lies a story not fully told, a story of fear, silent tears, and one man's battle against being forgotten as a fallen hero. This is the story of Edson Arantes do Nascimento, the man the world calls Pelé. Before he became the king of Azteca, Pelé once wanted to walk away from everything. He had tasted blood and mud at Goodison Park 4 years earlier, where brutal tackles nearly suffocated his love for the game. Mexico 1970 was not just a tournament, it was a pilgrimage toward light, where Pelé had to confront ghosts of the past, doubts from his own country, and the crushing weight of being a national symbol. Forget the dry statistics.
Step onto the bus,
Shaking with samba rhythms on its way to the stadium, and you will see a legend trembling in the shadows before stepping into the light to make the greatest leap of his life, a leap into immortality. On the Brazilian team bus, weaving through the vibrant streets of Mexico City toward the sacred Azteca, a carnival atmosphere filled the air. The players were not just heading to a match, they were carrying a moving festival. Jairzinho, the Hurricane, who had scored in every match so far, pounded rhythms on the bus with wild energy. Rivellino, Gerson, Tostão, Carlos Alberto, every superstar joined in, tapping on windows, walls, anything that could echo their joy. They sang of glory, of immortality waiting ahead. Yet amid that thunder of celebration, no one noticed the man shrinking into the corner. Pelé, the greatest symbol of world football, the soul of Brazil, sat hunched, hiding his face in his hands. Tears streamed down the cheeks of a man who had known both glory and suffering. These were not tears of fear, but of release, a crushing pressure carried for 4 long years, finally breaking free. Edson Arantes do Nascimento stood on the edge of the 1970 World Cup final, with a completely different heart than the radiant 17-year-old of 1958 or the injured champion of 1962. To understand why Pelé cried on that bus, we must return to the bitter summer of 1966 in England. That was where his love for football was nearly destroyed by violence. At Goodison Park, he became a target of relentless, brutal tackles. The image of him limping off the field while Brazil crashed out in the group stage left a scar that never healed. A humiliating defeat, Pelé wrote later. Broken and disillusioned, he declared he would leave the national team. He no longer wanted to play a game where genius was punished by brutality. His absence was a devastating blow to Brazil, a nation under military dictatorship, clinging to football as its only thread of unity. Pelé was more than a player, he was a national treasure, a symbol of hope for millions living in poverty. But time heals. Tours with Santos, the adoration of fans, and especially his 1,000th goal, reignited his fire. Pelé did not want his story to end in defeat. He returned to prove that art could triumph over violence. The road back was not easy. Coach João Saldanha doubted him, even questioning his health publicly. But pressure from the public and authorities led to Saldanha's replacement by Mario Zagallo, Pelé's former teammate. Zagallo understood one thing: to let Brazil fly, Pelé must be free. He built a daring system with 5 number 10s on the pitch: Jairzinho, Gerson, Tostão, Rivellino, and Pelé. It was a gamble, but also a philosophy. Total attacking football, destined to become the blueprint of beauty. When the World Cup began, the world saw football in colour for the first time, and no colour shone brighter than Brazil's yellow and green. In the opening match against Czechoslovakia, Pelé sent a message. After falling behind, Brazil responded with fury. Pelé scored with elegance, but it was his near goal from midfield that stunned the world. The ball narrowly missed, but the message was clear. Pelé was back, fearless and limitless. Then came England, the reigning champions. A final before the final. Pelé faced the very kind of opponents who had hurt him in 1966. Alan Mullery admitted using every method, including physical play, to stop him. But this Pelé was different. Stronger, calmer, smarter. His thunderous header forced Gordon Banks into what would be called the save of the century. Though he didn't score, Pelé assisted Jairzinho with a delicate pass. After the match, his shirt exchange with Bobby Moore became a timeless image of respect. Brazil advanced with unstoppable force. They became a family under Pelé's spiritual leadership. At night, he led prayers, not for victory, but for the poor and victims of war. The semi-final against Uruguay was personal. Pelé remembered his father's tears from 1950. He had promised to avenge that pain. In Guadalajara, he kept that promise. Brazil came from behind to win 3-1. Pelé dazzled again with a feint that fooled the goalkeeper without touching the ball, a moment of pure genius. Then came the final. As players walked out, tense and focused, Pelé alone glanced calmly toward the camera. He knew this was his moment. Italy, masters of defensive football, believed they could suffocate Brazil's artistry. They were wrong. In the 18th minute, from Rivellino's cross, Pelé rose. It wasn't just a jump. It felt like he paused in the air, waiting for the ball. His header thundered into the net. 1-0. It was Brazil's 100th World Cup goal, and no one deserved it more. Italy equalized, but the second half became a masterpiece. Gerson scored. Then Pelé assisted Jairzinho with a towering header, and then football reached perfection. In the 86th minute, a move began deep in Brazil's half. The ball passed through nearly every player. When it reached Pelé, he didn't even look. He knew. Carlos Alberto was running. The pass was perfect. Weight, angle, timing. Alberto struck it first time. 4-1. It was not just a goal, it was art. A painting of teamwork, sacrifice, and vision. When the final whistle blew, Azteca erupted. Pelé was swallowed by a sea of people. They lifted him, tore his shirt, carried him like a king. Yet he remained calm. He had fulfilled his mission. Brazil became the first nation to win 3 World Cups, keeping the Jules Rimet trophy forever. In the dressing room, amid celebration, Pelé quietly slipped into the bathroom, knelt down, and prayed. He thanked God for strength, for endurance, for restoring football as the beautiful game. A journalist rushed in, fell to his knees, and begged forgiveness for doubting him. Pelé gently lifted him and said, "Only God can forgive, and I am not God." That sentence defined him, a humble king, a genius who understood struggle and grace. Years later, Italian defender Tarcisio Burgnic said, "Before the match, I told myself Pelé was just a man. I was wrong." In Mexico 1970, Pelé was more than a player. He was a phenomenon, a force that turned football into a global religion. He arrived in tears on a bus, but left carried by the world as its one true king. That tournament was the peak of his career, not just skill, but intelligence and maturity. He became a conductor, orchestrating brilliance. He sacrificed, created space, and elevated others. That sacrifice made Brazil the greatest team of all time. Even today, footage of Pelé in 1970 remains a lesson for anyone who loves football. The calm gaze before the final, the suspended leap, the no-look pass. These moments became legend. He fulfilled his promise to his father. He healed a nation. More importantly, he showed the world how beautiful football could be when played by a genius with a kind heart. Pelé's legacy in 1970 is not just a trophy, it is a standard of beauty. He turned the pitch into an art gallery, where every pass was a brushstroke and every goal a masterpiece. And when we remember Mexico 1970, we do not just remember a tournament, we remember the moment football became perfect, under the feet of a man named Pelé. The king is gone, but the light of that summer in Mexico City will shine forever, guiding generations toward the dream of the beautiful game.